Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Vic Akers Wonderland Road to Stadium Australia podcast, where we will now attempt to round up the remaining round 2 of fixtures at this year's World Cup. Once again, I'm joined on this arduous marathon task by the magnificent Matt and the lovely Lottie. Matt, how's it going for you? Been enjoying the World Cup so far?
Oh yeah, really been surprised by a lot of these teams, and I'm really enjoying it. It's one of the beauties of women's football is you get to see some teams that have never taken part in the World Cup before, and you get to know a little bit more about these players. And we've seen some shocks, some great goals, and fantastic assists, great shot stopping as well. So a lot for everyone to look forward to. I think this is going to be one of the best World Cups attended wise as well as viewing wise. This could be essentially an extra growth from the Euros and all the other continental cups that were going on throughout the world last year.
Now, it's certainly a step. I think it's definitely a step up. 2019. 2019 was a very special World Cup. It was certainly for me the most globally viewed, and quality-wise, it was very good. Does feel like it's started to kick into gear now. Teams are getting up to speed, and certainly the first team we're going to talk about is definitely at full throttle. Lottie, been keeping up with the games?
Yeah, I've been watching as many as I can. I'm absolutely loving this as my first World Cup. There's so many players that have come from under the radar that I'm so excited to watch. Like, as a neutral fan, it's just, I love it. But this is what the World Cup's all about. It's them unknown players. It's them unsigned players. Could they come to the WSL? Could they go to the NWSL? Could they go to I believe the Australians call it the A-League. Like, they could go anywhere, and it's the biggest showcase of what players can do in the world. And boy, if they brought their A game.
Absolutely. We know Arsenal manager Jonas Eidevall is over there doing a bit of BBC punditry, but he's also had maybe to do a bit of scouting on the side. And certainly when we go through some of the games we're going to go through, there's a lot of talent on display. If you're looking for a move, this is the perfect shop window, and there's lots of talent available. So we're going to start with Group G. If you were listening to our previous overall pod, we covered the other game, Group G, which was the South Africa-Argentina game, 2-2 draw. So this was Sweden versus Italy. And Matt, you watched this one. Sweden 5, Italy 0. Goals from Amanda Ilestedt. She got a brace. Rolfo Blackstenius, good old Stina. She's off the score sheet as well. And Bromfist right at the end. So this new striker, Ilestedt, I thought we bought a centre-back. For Arsenal. So why have we got a centre forward playing as a centre back, Matt?
Sweden have this fantastic weapon that they do. So the stats are based off the Men's World Cup, where about around 74% or 76, I think that's the actual stat, of goals come from set pieces. And basically Sweden have exploited this to very much their extent. The Swedes are very much known for being a very tall side. You think of someone like Hafieli. Hafieli is a very tall player. She's not just very silky on the floor and very graceful in her tackles. She's very dominant in the air, and essentially, I remember when we were talking about this on Transfer Zone. And essentially, I was saying this wasn't a replacement for Leah Williamson that everyone was saying, or because she wasn't left back. This is essentially a like-for-like replacement, or as close to a Hafieli replacement as possible because of the height, the fact that she's played for top teams across Europe, not just PSG, and she's fantastic in the air. You've seen that she's not once, not twice, but three times. Yes, thrice, 3 times she has scored at this World Cup through headers. So Jonas was lucky enough on the BBC with this one, and he was just really going into how well Sweden are well drilled in the corners, and they're using it such a good way that no one can sort of be able to cope. And when the best example is, it's like when Steph Ketley's taking the corners, you know they're going to be in swinging towards the goalkeeper, or Katie McCabe does.
Yeah.
And
that's such an exciting prospect for next season, though, isn't it? Arsenal set pieces. If you've got them on the corner and Amanda Listed racing into the box, you're thinking goal, aren't you, already?
It really is. I mean, even if you think about, even if it's just like a corner, not even a corner, say it's a set piece in just outside the box, you're sort of, as an Arsenal fan, you'll probably be licking your lips going, this is a real chance we could go and score one here. And I think this is going to be an extra weapon in the armoury, as we should say, because apparently I got it wrong last time. It's in the Arsenal, as everyone was saying. Anyway.
Oh, exactly. You learnt your lesson. I'm only kidding.
Illiced did not score all 5 goals, which would have been amazing. There were others on there. Now I didn't. I think I missed the first 20 minutes of this game, and what I was sort of got the impression of the commentary was that for the first 20 or so minutes, Italy were pretty good. They moved the ball well. I thought, okay. But then what I watched was just a cataclysmic implosion to the extent that Italy were 3-0 down at half time. I mean, the defending, I think Rolfo had just bundled in a second from a corner. Seconds later, the Stina goal was just ridiculous from a defensive perspective. Like, I'm glad Stina scored, but what happened? Like, Italians are known for the defensive discipline, but this was not the Italy I sort of know.
Yeah, I'm sitting here laughing because it's just, there's a lot of people that I play football with, and I know, we've all played with that. Basically, they're useless, so they turn around to you if it's a Sunday league, and they say, "All right, okay, we'll just stick you in defence, and you can't do really anything wrong." Essentially, that's what it felt like. It just, no matter what happened, the ball was pinging in the box, and just essentially what happened was Stina just poked the ball home, and it's great that Stina's got a first goal, and it builds that confidence that we've been talking about for a lot of the other players. But it was a bit unexpected, really. I weren't expecting Sweden to just all of a sudden just turn a switch and then they're on it as much as they were. I don't think everyone was expecting Italy to sort of collapse as much as they did. It almost felt like...
How disappointed have you been about Italy? Because I remember in the last World Cup, Italy were seen as pretty good. I think they even topped the group. They topped the group containing Brazil and Australia. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe they did top their group, and they I think they progressed as far as I think it was the quarterfinals in the World Cup. Euros, they went out in the group. They were very disappointing, and it feels like the same here. I mean, Italy, the Serie A was just growing league. We know ex-Arsenal manager Joe Montemurro. We went over there with Juventus. We saw Roma be quite courageous against Barcelona. I would struggle to make whether they can still get out of the group. You know, they have already got a win on the board, but you know, is this risking to be another flop tournament for Italy?
I think it's a case of being able to make yourself grow. I mean, to be honest, Bonacea has been their shining light over these 2 games, and she's been such a talent to watch. If you're looking at her and you're thinking, I need someone to sort of be that creative player in the last thirds or even deeper, she's the sort of player that you'd probably want to bring into your team. It's just, I have a feeling that Italy are going through so many changes at the moment. They don't know how to develop their team. And it's a case of learning, which is one of the reasons why they did the Arnold Clark Cup. I remember mentioning that a couple of weeks ago. Same with South Korea and I think Belgium as well.
Yeah.
It's a case of how do they grow the leagues? How do they set everything up? And they're all still learning. And if they're all learning, you still expect a few slip ups. So they might turn around and say, okay, if we go out, we go out. But if we somehow sneak through, it's a bonus. And on top of that, we can we might be able to get a few more players into the Serie A, and it's not Serie A, is it? I think it's Serie F.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Serie F, yeah.
The Italian league.
Yeah, there is definitely room for growth for Italy. I mean, I can't see them. They could get out of the group, but I can't see them winning it. And I think if they did get to the last 16, I think there's a real risk that they could get knocked out. Sweden, for me, looked very scary when they got to the Olympic final, and I think the 4-0 loss they suffered in the Euros at the hands of England, I think was maybe quite skewed. I mean, I was there for that game, and Sweden were very good for the first 20 minutes, and we had to hang in there because they were all over us, and yet we managed to come with a 4-0 win, which was just bonkers. But I think the Sweden is looking very, very strong, and they've been strong contenders in recent World Cups. They got to the semi-finals last time, and they beat us in the third place playoff. They're not to be underestimated, and I think they look like they're going to get out of the group. And I think whoever they do play when they get out of the group, it's going to give them a tough game. There's a lot of talent in there, Holfo and Blackstenius and their world-class attacking centre-back, Ilestead. Moving on to the other group, Group F, 2 games, Panama 0, Jamaica 1, and France 2, Brazil 1. Just want to tap onto Panama, Jamaica first. Not really a game I was sort of lining up to watch in terms of for frills and spills, but history was made. This was Jamaica's first ever win at a World Cup. And I think the second goal they ever scored, and it was Swabby. They got a 56-minute header, glancing header from the corner. Nearly got a chance for a second with a penalty, which I think VAR actually stated wasn't the case. I think it was a handball decision. It was overturned. Not the most thrills and spills game, but interestingly, it does leave us in a rather intriguing situation in the group, just because of the France-Brazil game. Now, Lottie, did you watch the France-Brazil game?
Oh, definitely. It's one game you weren't going to miss, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
It's one of the fixtures of the weekend. I mean, it's the likes of I'm going to go with Ari Borges, because she's scored her absolute. It's a battle against Wendy Renard in that whole defence. She's the person you want to get past. And Dabina did manage to do it, which was absolutely brilliant in the 58th minute.
That finish was brilliant. That touch, the touch as well.
The touch, and then boom. Yeah, I mean, when I watch her play, it's more of an art, and the technical ability, and it's just beautiful. I love watching the Brazil play, because they've got so much more to their game in terms of technical ability and speed and how they play. It's brilliant. I did unfortunately miss Eugene Le Sommer's goal, so I literally tuned in just after that, and I tuned in and I was like, oh no, come on, I can't. I don't want France to win, basically.
No.
But yeah, no, the battles around the pitch were really, really interesting. It wasn't one-sided. The stats on it. It was 54% to France and 46% to Brazil, and France were getting the shots in, but they were just not on target. Only 7 out of 19 were on target. And you can see, as I've said before, you can see how much they missed Delphine Cascarino. You can see how much they miss Marie Antoinette Katato. Sorry, I do apologise. And it's Diani looks lost without them. I've always called those three out. I started to call those three musketeers through the Euros, because where one was, the other two were really close behind it. It was just the creativity they're missing from Delphine is unreal. Being in the right place at the right time for Katato is what they're missing. And I don't think Clara Matteo and Eugene Le Sommer are enough. Although they are great players, I will not take that away from them. They're just not enough, and I don't think they're going to get past the quarterfinals, but we'll see. It depends who they end up. They've still got to play their round 3, which is over the next few days.
Yeah. I was going to say, could you get your thoughts on Dali, who came into the midfield?
Kenza Dali, do you know what? For Villa, she's great, but she's a bit like Noel Maritz when it comes to international football. She goes into beast mode. She was absolutely insane. She was everywhere. She was terrorising Brazil, and they didn't know how to deal with her. And if we saw that at Villa would be very much a different beast, but we don't. So I don't know what's going on there. It's a bit like Noel Maris. We can't explain why she's so brilliant in the Champions League, because this switch just comes on and it's like it turns off when it's league, and it's like, But either way, she's still a great player, you know. But I was really, really excited for Brazil. Once the Bina had obviously scored, I was thinking, if they get a draw, this is massive. They've never beat France. Then the 6-foot defender comes along and heads one back in the net. I was gutted.
So this was the thing. I was supporting Brazil as well, because going into the game, Brazil had won their opening fixture. They got 4-0, I think it was, in their opening against Panama. Looked amazing. I mean, there was that brilliant goal where one of the players back heels it for somebody else.
Yeah, that was Ari
Knock a top corner. Exactly. You're thinking, this is the Brazilian exciting passing football we're going to see. And I was looking forward to seeing against France, who had a 0-0 draw against Jamaica. And you're thinking, okay, you know, they're there for them. But I thought France were brilliant. And actually, I found Brazil rather disappointing. I thought the French team had the intensity, had the passing. They were on it. And Brazil just couldn't live with them. Samar gave them the lead. Brazil were a bit better in the second half. And it was Dabina, which would be the volley. It was a brilliant sort of pass around the corner. She sort of jumps, takes the ball on the outside of her foot, on the sort of side of her foot to control it, and then volleys it past the keeper. And at that point, it went a bit basketball, a bit end to end. And he just thought one person's going to make a mistake here, and it was Brazil. I mean, the defending for the corner. I mean, Matt, we all know Wendy Renard. I mean, how on earth does Wendy Renard get unmarked at a corner? It's not like she's invisible. You can't miss Renard. How on earth did Brazil get this so wrong?
I go back to one of the last pods that I said, whenever as a goalkeeper, you tell people to mark size for size. You don't want someone like myself or Lottie to be marking someone of your size, Adam. You're over 6 foot. We're around me and Lottie are around the same.
But this wasn't mismatch size marking. This was just not marking at all.
It does make you wonder. People have preferences over zonal marking and man marking, but it's just so bizarre that no one turns around and goes, right, okay, I see the biggest player on the pitch, 6'4", something around that type. She's so tall that you can't miss her. Essentially, she is a BFG. Although you could probably change a few letters.
Place the F for something else. Yes,
well,
exactly.
Big
But
French
we
player,
don't do that here.
Whatever you want to call it.
Big French giant.
Yes, essentially you can't miss her, and I think what the problem is the keeper doesn't know whether to come or go, and if the keeper doesn't know whether or not to come and go, that causes more problems as well.
It's a brilliant cross from Selma Bakker. Brilliant delivery from the corner. And the run around the back, the header, the accurate header, brilliant finish from France. It does leave us in a very intriguing position. As things stand, there's one game left to go in the group. And as it stands, France and Jamaica lead, tied on 4 points, Brazil on 3. Now, France have to play Panama. Jamaica face Brazil. Now, Jamaica know that a draw or a win for them will send them through and knock Brazil out. And as we're going to get to, we're going to talk about Canada later. It's another game that Marta's missed to make history with the 6-game run of the World Cups. If Brazil go out in the group stage to Jamaica, because we know Jamaica now, they haven't conceded a goal in the World Cup yet. That's 2 clean sheets. They keep a 3rd clean sheet, Brazil go home. Is there a chance that could actually happen? Could we see a World Cup where Jamaica go through and Brazil go out?
Oh, Lottie's face kind of says it. Oh, you hope not.
That sounds like trauma to me, to be honest.
I'm just looking at the maths behind it.
I just I sit there and look at that record, and Christine Sinclair's giving it to Marta on a plate. I got Cristiano Ronaldo holding his breath over it. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of want Marta to stay just to own that record of being the first player in 6 tournaments to score in every tournament, and that even if they don't get much further than wherever they come out of, it's something that will remain. The records remain, and it will always be hers.
Well, hopefully she can break it against Jamaicans in the next round of fixtures. That's the end of part one. And part two, we're going to cover the rest of the round two of fixtures.
Might think about going for goal. Does think about it. Jill Scott gives England the lead. She's becoming England's go-to player.
Welcome back, everybody, to part two of the show, where we're going to pick apart the last two round two fixtures at the World Cup. This was Group H. And the two games in question, South Korea 0, Morocco 1, and Germany 1, Colombia 2. There's obviously, out of those two games, there's a very obvious result that we must dig into. It's probably the big result out of the two. Matt, history for the Moroccans, a 1-0 win. Big moment for them.
Yeah, it's great to see that when you get a debutant, not only do they get a first goal, but getting those first points is really important. It helps you inspire. I always talk about inspiring the next generation, it seems on here, but essentially that's what they're doing for Moroccan fans, and it's great to see that for the past two World Cups you're having the men's and women's sides doing really well so far. They're not quite out of the group yet, and that's great importance to them. There was a little bit of history as well. A player that I mentioned a long time ago, first player to wear a hijab, officially made her debut
Hijab.
as well. Hijab, thank you. I do apologise for our Arab followers or followers of that religion. I do apologise. This game just made you see how much there was a difference between the semi-final of the finalists, of the African Cup of Nations and a country that's become a semi-finalist in the Asian Cup. It seems like South Korea are in still that transition, and they really haven't learned any lessons that they were expecting to from the Arnold Clark Cup.
Yeah, I was going to say, firstly on it was Nuhaya Benzina who was the first player to wear a hijab at the World Cup. The goal came actually right at the start of the game. 6 minutes in, it was when Dradi glanced home the near post cross. South Korea had 84 minutes to find an equaliser and couldn't. Lottie, this is a South Korean team that possesses stars like former Chelsea midfielder G. Bit of a disappointing World Cup for them.
No, absolutely. I didn't actually watch this game, but it was really disappointing to see that they couldn't really fight back, if that makes sense. I think there's a lot of factors to take into place. I mean, if I'm right, they are debutants, is that right?
Morocco are making their first World Cup start. South Korea more experienced.
So it's not. Yeah, South Korea should know that. Put it that way. Although the debutants do bring a sort of unknown factor to the tournament, so I think that's what bit them in the backside. If I'm honest with you, bit disappointed with. Sorry, did you say Jin? I think the one that played for Chelsea.
G.
Yeah, G. Sorry. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed with her. I was expecting it a little bit more, especially when she was over from here in WSL. But other than that, I think it's a massive win for Morocco. It's first goal, first 3 points, and it's absolutely massive for them in terms of making their own history. And I really hope they do come back in the next tournament and they do qualify, because they can grow from this. And I think that's what's the really exciting part of it.
100%. We're going to talk about what that will mean for qualification-wise for the remaining fixtures once you've gone over the real big result. I had a lot of fun watching this game. I think we all did. Germany versus Colombia. I think we all probably expected, Germany, they would look quite good, fair to say, against Morocco. I think it was 6-0 they racked up in their opening games. We thought Colombia, a win, they're through. And I think we'd probably say Colombia probably put in the performance of the tournament so far, probably producing one of the biggest shocks of the tournament so far. Matt, how did this one play out?
I think it was a very, very much a game that I think everyone wasn't expecting to go Colombia's way. But I think a lot of people were probably expecting it to be a very much a 50-50 battle. You look at the final Leesma, that ended up a bit going to penalties. These are two finalists again, both in the Copa America and the Euros last year. So these two good teams that are good, that know how to get to finals. It was almost like I'm trying to think of any game recently where it's been so end to end, but I don't think I can. So I would almost like a derby in some sort of way, not with like the loose tackles or anything like that, but it was 1 minute Germany were up the pitch and they were winning all the battles and having their shots on goal, and then the next minute it was Colombia up the other end, and it was, as a neutral, it's great to see. It was just where's it gone? There it is. Sorry. I wasn't expecting a lot of it to happen as it turned out. Linda Casado scoring that first goal. Casado, thank you, Lottie.
We're going to get onto that in a bit, Matt. Yeah.
But then you've got that added drama of a penalty as well from Alexandra Pop, and then the eventual winner in the dying minutes, I think we'll go through. But it was a fantastic game, and if you were happy to be at that game, that's one of those games where you go, "Wow, this wants me to go and watch more football."
It was what Bluff was. It was very intense, very physical. Colombia were very. They weren't going to sit back and let Germany walk over them. They were in their faces. They were man-to-man marking, rotational fouling on Pop, which frustrated the Germans to no end. And I think they rattled the Germans. I don't think they expect that from Colombia. And Colombia pressed them and forced them and just couldn't let them get in their stride. Now, I want to come to you, Lottie, on this one, because I think this is a player that you put in your one to watch. I hope you put her in your fantasy team as well.
Oh, yeah. She's like,
absolutely,
because she's in that last group, the points don't go on till Group A plays again, and it's that sort of icing on the cake because I've got to wait for the points to flip, and then my points go up again, and
it's like games in hand. It's just points in hand. They're going to come through.
Oh yeah.
We all know that Chelsea are trying to sign a player called Caicedo. I think it's fair to say they're trying to sign the wrong one.
It's definitely not Linda. Although I have to admit, Emma Hayes did say that Linda Caicedo was on her radar, but she wasn't interested by the sounds of things because she ended up at Real Madrid in January.
She's at Real Madrid. And
I think
what a player Real Madrid have got.
Is massive. It's massive, and I have to slightly agree with Emma Hayes here. During the halftime talk, as the sports guy, we will be seeing the continental moves. Like we have with Linda Caicedo over at Real Madrid from Colombia. And I think that's what's really exciting. I mean, there's rumours come out today. They're looking at Daniela Montoya for Man United. Considering with the Colombia, their federation doesn't back them. I think this is absolutely massive. And my advice to that federation is back your team. They've just beat one of the toughest teams in the world. And they absolutely rattled Alex Pop, and I loved every moment of it. Their game is very physical, and they're very smart with it. I have to be honest. It wasn't the same player every time. It was a rotation, and you can see Pop boiling over.
Yeah.
And I loved every minute of it.
It was very sort of dark art stuff, but because it was Germany, I was sort of all right with it.
I don't want to take that away from the football, though. The football they played was immaculate.
100%.
That's what I want to see from an underdog team. It got to the point where I've actually gone and bought myself a Caicedo shirt.
Can we just talk about that away shirt? Because Adidas have done amazing with that, and it looks out of this world, quite literally, because it looks like it's in space. It's fantastic.
I'm a chef kiss.
It is a brilliant kit. The Caicedo goal for me was, well, at the time of recording, at the time of it happening, I thought was the best goal of the tournament so far. I think there's been a few more we're going to cover in a later pod that have happened, which may be put in. But certainly when the goal came, a loose ball in the box came to Caicedo, which is a player that I heard so much about but had not really seen. I mean, she scored in the previous game, and it was In fairness, it was a decent enough effort, but it was a bit of a fumble by the keeper. She sort of punched into her own net, and it was a bit okay. So I thought, what is so exciting about this Caicedo player who apparently has done so well in these under 17?
Can we just make note? She's done 2 World Cups. This is her 3rd World Cup in a year.
In 1 year, which is insane. She it's 2 defenders facing up to her. She has the skill to beat both of them, to dart between both of them, and then find the top corner. And it's not like she can just run up and pelt this. She has this. It's a work of art. Keeper helpless, spins it in the top corner. I was watching this on sofa and I was screaming. I just couldn't believe. I mean, it was only for about a second, but it was a very loud roar. Just like I couldn't believe what I've just seen. The skill on display. And against Germany, of all teams, and you just sort of, hang on a minute, Germany are rattled, Colombia are on this. And they were controlling the game and they had the lead. And I thought, there's a real chance of an upset here. And then they had a moment, it was just before the thing happened, there was a low cross through and it was a bit sort of, again, I always use this analogy, it was Gaza 96. The ball came through and I just thought, Caicedo, just throw yourself at it. Just throw yourself at the ball and you made it 2-0 and it passed her by. And then I think we all thought the inevitable was happening. And probably Germany's their only really good moment of quality in the game. A ball played through, brilliant dummy, and suddenly Oberdorf is clean through. And it's one of those things where it's like watching a car crash before it happens. You can see the penalty coming the moment Oberdorf makes a dart in the box because you know the fact keepers panic, keepers come out, and you thought, I know exactly what Oberdorf's going to do. She's going to knock it past the keeper, take the hit, and go down, and the keeper falls for it. Penalty Germany. I don't think we expected him. Pop to miss, did we? We may have hoped, but I think we all thought Pop was going to score the one, didn't we?
Come on, Pop was wound up. She was rattled. Yeah. I was like, when she's wound up, she's very good at blocking everything else, and you can see it on her face.
Oh, yeah.
But after the game she had, I'm not surprised she put it away, let's be honest. She's absolutely like, right, I'm getting this point back. I've had enough of this game. But it didn't end like that, did it?
No, I mean, I like to think I put a bit of a reverse jinx on it. Because, but in fairness, it was based on history, which is the traditional thing with Germany, is that you always, with great teams, you always find a way. You always find a way to get a draw when you were rubbish or even stealing all the points. And I thought, well, here we go. It's typical Germany. This was they've had a wobble in the World Cup, but they've salvaged it and got a point. And you go, yeah, fair enough. And Colombia are going to be kicking themselves. And then it got very, very interesting because Germany decided to try and win the game. And it didn't work out for them. It was very late in the game. Colombia got one really strong counter. I mean, we should say the way Colombia worked the ball from back to front on the counter, the accuracy in the passing required to do that. And the fact that they were able to get the ball to stick when it went long, able to retain the ball, work the ball around the German players, I thought was incredible. Work the ball, shot, block, corner, and you just sort of felt that there's been a few late corners, nothing's happened. There's been a few keepers coming up as well for corners, which has been quite fun. Yeah. And it sort of felt this was the last set piece, this was the moment. But did we expect that Vargas was going to get a free header in the box, we should say? We were talking about earlier about Renard free headers. Free in the box, heads through the crowd, past the dive of the keeper, and suddenly Colombia have won it all over again. I mean, I think we were all floored by that, weren't we?
I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I was going absolutely nuts. I was so happy for them. But I think what we need to acknowledge in that sort of thing throughout this whole game actually is a case of it didn't matter where Germany went. Colombia moved as a unit. They did not leave their shape. If it was pulled over to the left, everyone moved over to the left. If it was over to the right, everyone moved over to the right. It was such a solid unit, and I think what's another really thing that's really interesting is their manager got a red card in the last summer's Copa de America, and he hasn't been on that touchline at all in this tournament. I think his ban is now lifted after this game. If I'm correct, Matt is nodding, so I'm right. So it'll be really interesting to see what he does on the touchline, because he was very solemn and very quiet where he's banished to his seat, whereas his assistant manager doing an absolute cracking job. Obviously he's taking his instructions, but he might be tweaking it himself, you never know. But for the assistant manager to lead out and keep them the way it was, absolutely brilliant. I can't wait to see the next game.
I think this is what we're going to talk about next. It's going to be very interesting next round of fixtures. So as it stands on the table, Colombia lead on 6 points. Germany, after 2 games, are on 3, tied with Morocco. Now, for the final round of fixtures, Colombia, they will play, I think it is Morocco, and Germany will play bottom side South Korea. South Korea, incredibly, can still qualify, although they would have to absolutely batter Germany to do so. But the more interesting is, all Colombia have to do is draw or beat Morocco, and they will go through. If Germany draw against South Korea or Morocco win, Germany are third and they're out, which is really, really interesting. The big thing for me is that there's a good chance Germany could go second in the group, and there's a lot of talk about England being on the bad side of the draw and some of the players they can face. Suddenly, those teams suddenly may not be playing England, maybe on the other side of the draw. So I think this is a really interesting group to watch out for. I think the last round of fixtures, when it's all on at the same time, very interesting to watch. But yeah, that's a little spanner in the works Colombia thrown. Not the first time. In the last one, in 2015, they actually beat France 2-0 in their group stage. It was the first win in the World Cup. Didn't stop France topping the group. But it shows that when they come against the big teams, they shouldn't be underestimated. And if they should cross paths with England, I'd be very, very aware of them, especially if Caicedo is still showing the talent and form that we've seen so far.
Oh, absolutely. But we can match that in Lauren James. I think what worries me is their physicality. And
yes,
we know what's happened in that department, but I'm not going to chink it because that is our host job, Adam. So
yeah, it is my job to and I'm not going to anywhere because we have to get past Nigeria first before we consider who we may play in quarterfinals and beyond. But it's always good as an England fan. It's always good to see Germany lose, and it doesn't happen often. But this is quite an incredible one. I think it's the first time we've actually lost a group stage game at the World Cup, the women's team, since 1995. Yes. Which shows just what an incredible force they are at this point of the competition. But that's it. That's the end of all our summary of the round of 2 fixtures. I hope you enjoyed, and just leaves me to say a farewell to my co-host Matt and Lottie. Matt and Lottie, excellent. Well, we will be back soon for part of the round of 3 fixtures. But until then, take care.